Okay. Ambassador of Canada to Turkey, His Excellency Jamal Khokhar. General Manager and Chairwoman of the General Directorate of Agricultural Enterprises, Ms. Ayşe Ayşin Işıkgece. General Manager of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, Ms. Kathleen Donohue. Dear participants, good afternoon. It's my honor to meet you all in our first Canada Talks on business and investment opportunities, agriculture and livestock on behalf of DEİK and Turkey Canada Business Council. I'm so pleased to host today's discussion with Ambassador of Canada to Turkey, His Excellency Jamal Khokhar, General Manager and Chairwoman of the General Directorate of Agricultural Enterprises, TİGEM, Ms. Ayşe Ayşin Işıkgece, and General Manager of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, Ms. Kathleen Donohue. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome our keynote speakers. Today, we will evaluate the business and investment opportunities between Turkey and Canada. Before I turn it over to Mr. Ambassador, I would like to make some brief remarks. Allow me to begin by introducing DEİK. Foreign Economic Relations Board, DEİK, is a business platform that has been continuing its activities on a voluntary-based private sector membership for 35 years. In order to enhance investment and trade between Turkey and other countries, we continue our works with an understanding of business diplomacy. We have 146 country-to-country based business councils for different regions in the world. Turkey-Canada Business Council is one of them. Despite their geographical distance, Canada and Turkey have always had long-standing common interests. They share a long history of strong economic and diplomatic relations. As the Turkey-Canada Business Council, we are committed to enrich and promote bilateral relations between our countries. In the face of the pandemic, it is crucial to combine efforts to achieve targeted, sustainable economic development between our countries. Unfortunately, the pandemic has led to unprecedented challenges in the global business community. Effective networks of communication are playing an important role to overcome these challenges, along with opening new areas of cooperation. Bilateral trade volumes do not reflect the potential between Turkey and Canada. We focus on expanding and improving our mutual investment relations with a wide range of different sectors, and agriculture and livestock are one of them. Canada is the most free country in the world in terms of animal diseases. There are opportunities for Canadian and Turkish companies to take part in joint projects. There is strong and growing demand in Turkey for export of genetics, legumes, seafood, etc., along with good scope of agricultural technology and related S&T collaboration. This technology is related to smart farming, delivery to market, smart industries and applications in the livestock management, bovine and ovine genomics. Therefore, we have organized this webinar to evaluate investment and business opportunities in the field of agriculture and livestock for Turkey and Canada. Since the beginning of this global crisis as a nation, with the visionary acts of our government and business community, we have worked to ensure the stability of our economy. Canada also has successfully overcome the challenges caused by the pandemic. In the new normal, even before the economy is fully reopened, we are certain that Turkey and Canada will further develop their economic ties based on their mutual interest. These countries continue to implement various measures to contain the spread of the disease. Turkey is closely monitoring agricultural trade impacts of COVID-19. As we all encountered, the pandemic is disrupting shipping logistics around the world and presenting some challenges involving the movement of goods. Countries have implemented travel restrictions and additional safety measures at ports, which are causing delays throughout the international supply chain. Despite these challenges, we consider the food supply chain to be critical during this time, and Turkey continues to be in a strong position to supply our international trade partners with safe, high-quality agricultural products. I strongly believe that Turkey and Canada, as two well-equipped and experienced countries, will also be successful in investing into third countries together. And with that, it is my pleasure now to turn the floor over to Ambassador of Canada to Turkey, His Excellency Jamal Khokhar, for his speech. His Excellency doubled his responsibilities in Turkey. Besides extending the ties between the two countries, he is now a father of twin daughters. My ambassador, congratulations again, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nurdan. Thank you very much for that introduction. Well, as Nurdan said, I am Canada's ambassador to Turkey, and I just arrived actually in late November and was very much looking forward to jumping into this very vibrant Turkey-Canada relationship, particularly on the trading and investment side. You should know I have an inherent bias. I come from the trade and investment part of our ministry and served in those areas for over 30 years in several countries. So when I came to Turkey, it was very much with the enthusiasm of advancing trade investment, both from Canada into Turkey and likewise. But soon after my arrival, we seem to have rolled from one crisis to another. Early in the new year, of course, many of you will recall the very tragic crash of Ukraine Airlines PS752, which crashed in Iran. And as many of you know, Canada had the second highest number of fatalities on the flight, Canadian Iranians. And with no Canadian embassy in Iran, it was actually our team at the embassy in Ankara that had to be responsible for managing the situation on the ground in support of the Canadians who lost friends and families in Iran. Shortly thereafter was the refugee crisis, and just weeks after the Syrian refugee crisis, and then shortly, a few weeks after that was COVID-19. And as Nurdan said, but on a much more positive note, my next big event was on June 1, where Giovanna delivered twin baby girls. So I actually don't know what a normal work day looks like anymore. So it's with great pleasure that I'm finally able to jump back into the work and specifically on this very important subject of advancing trade and investment in the agricultural and livestock sector. Kathleen is joining us from AAFC, Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. And thank you very much, Kathleen, for joining us. And I do hope we can welcome you to Turkey soon. I know you've been here before, as several of your colleagues have as well, and we look forward to renewing that acquaintance. And Nurdan, thank you very much for organizing this webinar. And many of you may not know this, but I first met Nurdan early in my arrival, and she was the one that actually encouraged me to focus on livestock and genetics as being a key opportunity for companies, both Turkish and Canadian, in joint venturing, both for this market as well as regional and global markets. So I'd like to thank her and her team from DEİK for organizing this seminar. Obviously, we would have liked to have done something face-to-face. It's very difficult talking to a screen and not having that wonderful feedback with the audience and that interaction, but I do hope that we'll be able to do something soon in the not too distant future. The idea today is hopefully that participants, whether you're in Turkey or in Canada, will come away from this conversation with a greater knowledge of the opportunities for cooperation and collaboration, and also hopefully identify some new partners with whom they can collaborate in the future. We'll be hearing from Ms. Ayşin, the General Manager and the Chairman of the General Directorate of Agricultural Enterprises here in Turkey, and I thank her for her participation. She comes to this sector with a great amount of experience with multinationals and otherwise, and I hope that you can benefit and use her presence here, and if not directly through this conference, then later on connect as well in terms of bettering your understanding of the opportunities in this market. Before I go on, I have another bias I have to tell you. I come from Calgary, Alberta. And those of you who know Calgary will know that it's the heartland, if you will, for livestock and livestock genetics. And very early in my career, on my second posting was in Brazil as a junior trade officer. And I was actually responsible for the agricultural sector and was part of the team that helped some leading Canadian cattle genetic companies open up their first office in Brazil, and then help them get Canadian cattle registered in the Brazilian herd book. So this is a sector that I can't say I'm overly confident or technically competent in, but I'm familiar with it and I'm very enthusiastic about it. And I hope that we can do tremendous work here in Turkey. So I come with it without presuming much, but with a great deal of optimism. And I can assure you of my interest and personal commitment in terms of moving that ball forward. Now, I'm not going to go over about just how wonderful the Canada-Turkey relationship is and the stats and the figures. You can get that online. You don't need to hear that from me. But I do want to say that we launched this relationship with renewed vigor last year, just around the time of my arrival, with the new Joint Economic and Trade Commission meeting. And this is a meeting designed to be an engagement at the highest levels, ideally at the level of ministers or deputy ministers, to talk about the overall bilateral relationship on the trade side and to invigorate that relationship between the private sectors of our two countries. I'm not much, even though I work for government, I'm not one for government-to-government conversations. As important as they are, I think it's extremely important that we invigorate our private sectors to come together to talk about trade and investment on both sides. And government is there to help facilitate that conversation. So Kathleen will come to this conversation and talk a little bit about some of the challenges that we have in the Turkish market, particularly in the area of registrations and certificates. And our effort here will be to try to open up those roadblocks, if you will, to a certain degree, to facilitate the dialogue and those opportunities for Canadian companies. And your suggestions, your ideas, and absolutely your support from the Turkish private sector is going to be key in doing so. So part of that Joint Economic and Trade Commission meeting, which was signed back in June 2019, was a special chapter on a joint agricultural committee. So I think there's an opportunity there now looking forward, and I can say today, because this is kind of hot off the press news, that a second joint agricultural, rather a second JETCO, is being planned for November this year. So hopefully, and it'll be a virtual one like this, and it will be hosted in Canada. And we hope that, depending on dates, that Canada's Minister for International Trade will be able to participate. So personally, I was worried that with COVID, some of these important initiatives may be put on the back burner, but I was just delighted to hear that we're moving ahead. And so we're looking forward to our governments getting together and our private sectors getting together. And we'll come back with more on that. So just after my arrival, of course, as any new ambassador does, they present credentials to the president. And this is my first time to meet with President Erdoğan. And trade and investment was one of the core subjects of our conversation. We both agreed on the significant potential in that. And I guess in diplomatic speak, what that means is when you talk about significant potential, that's code for saying that there's not enough and we should be doing more. And so he reinforced my views. I think I reinforced his, that absolutely there could be a lot more that could be done. And I know working through our ministries of agriculture and our ministries of trade and ministries of foreign affairs, that there is a concerted effort to now follow through on both governments' aspirations to advance trade and investment. And that potential exists not only bilaterally between our two countries, domestically, both in Canada as well as in Turkey, but I think we shouldn't lose sight of regional markets and third markets. And I know that there are several firms, I'm not going to name any because if I name one, somebody else will say you didn't name my firm, but we know who they are. But several firms have been very, very successful in exporting product from Canada, bringing it into Turkey, and then distributing into third markets regionally. And I think that can be said for a variety of products, and we should be looking at that. So I think the world has moved beyond this just the bilateral pure trade and starting to look at a little bit creatively to third markets and regional markets. And this year, you know, one of the things that we want to think about as we move forward is what is it that we can be doing with the private sector to advance very specifically some of the roadblocks that exist. And I'm going to let Kathleen speak about those very frankly. Not that every country has these, and I think it's a matter of our private sectors working with governments to identify what those roadblocks are, where those challenges are, and then with concerted effort, bring about some change so we can free the hands of our private sector to do the good work that they always do. Now, Kathleen will explain what her ministry does, but Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada is the leading ministry in Canada that at the federal level that involves itself on advancing trade both domestically and internationally. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, both in Canada as well as internationally, plays an important supportive role by advancing market access for Canadian agriculture and agri-food products. So, you know, getting rid of the trade barriers that we've talked about, providing companies on both sides of the Atlantic with advice on each other's markets. And we do that through our Trade Commissioner Service. And we have 2 trade commissioners based in Turkey, in Istanbul and Ankara, that are principally responsible for agriculture. So you should take advantage of reaching out to them for advice and suggestions on what you could be doing in advancing your work in each other's markets. And of course, if you need any assistance or any further push, don't hesitate to come to me. I'm very enthusiastic and very keen on expanding and helping you expand your business to Canada, if you're a Turkish company, and of course, for Canadian companies coming to Turkey and to regional markets. So as Ms. Donohue will mention, of course, Canada is one of the world's largest exporters of agriculture and agri-food products in the world after the European Union, the United States, Brazil, and China. And given today's focus on agriculture and livestock, it's often overlooked that Canadian genetics have helped most cattle exporting countries improve their animal stock. And that actually applies to many of the countries from which Turkey is now importing their product. So I would say, cut out the middleman, cut out the middle countries, and let's come back to the source of what those really high quality Canadian cattle and high quality Canadian genetics is all about. So let's go straight to the source. And I know Kathleen and her team, and same with our trade commissioners here, would be delighted to help you do that. We produce high quality animal genetics, breeding cattle, of course, feeder cattle, sheep and goats, and high quality seeds that would certainly benefit the Turkish farmers. And I think Nurdan spoke to this and will attest to this, that it's not always about price or price differentials. And of course there will be some, and there will be differentials between other markets. But we're recognized for having very high quality standards. And sometimes quality and food safety trumps price. And we need to think about that, especially at a time when Turkey, and I know this to be a fact, that Turkey would like to become self-sufficient in beef production. And so Canadian genetics and inputs can help enhance and expand local animal husbandry. And when we think about health, we also have to obviously jump into this as we are in the middle of COVID-19, the pandemic. And COVID-19 has undoubtedly brought attention to global food supply chains. And both Turkey and Canada are integral parts of that global supply chain. And our foreign ministers are participating in a conversation at the foreign minister level about how to secure and advance global supply chains, both bilaterally, but also at the multilateral level. And this is where I think our JETCO and our Joint Agricultural Committee can focus on how we can increase participation, both of our firms from countries, to advance and to strengthen Canadian and Turkish participation in those global supply chains, especially in these times of crisis. And as we've mentioned before, health and health safety, food and food safety is a priority for Canada and for Canadian consumers and Canadian producers. So I think it's aligned well with some of the priorities that Turkey brings to this. So that's it for me. I'd be happy to entertain questions later on if there's time for it. If not, please do reach out to me personally. I'm delighted to engage with you individually or the associations to talk a little bit about what we can do. I look forward to hearing about what your vision is for agriculture, agri-food, and particularly about animal genetics in terms of animal livestock exports to Turkey and what Canada can do to help advance that. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Nurdan, for organizing this. And I thank you for all the participants coming in from across Canada and Turkey for your participation today.
Thank you, Ambassador Khokhar, for your valuable insight. Now, I am honored to give the floor to the first woman General Manager and Chairperson of the General Directorate of Agricultural Enterprises, TİGEM, Ms. Ayşe, Ayşin Işıkgece. She is the very first woman General Manager and Chairperson in the 700 years history of TİGEM. On behalf of the Turkish women, I must say we are very much proud of her.
Good.
The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nurdan Hanım, for the invitation. Thank you for this inspiring speech, His Excellency, Mr. Jamal. I would like to share my presentation with you. I would like to open, if you give me the right. Okay. I think it's clear. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ayşin Işıkgece, General Director of Agricultural Enterprises, which is the largest public agriculture organization of Turkey. Now, I would like to give you some information about our assets. As you can see, we are producing the basic elements of the agricultural sector, and we have a history of 700 years. TİGEM has 17 farms located in different geographies of Turkey. We are the sector leader in production of certified cereal seeds with a share of 33%. We are providing the opportunity for the farmers to increase their yields by minimum 25% with our best quality certificated seeds. We are producing 5 different breeds of the cattle. We are aiming to elevate the quality of animal breeding in Turkey with the best quality cattle. Another important duty of TİGEM is sheep breeding. We have 10 local and national breeds. We have the largest flock of AAFC breed and, in our Ceylanpınar farms, which is the largest single-piece farm of the world. TİGEM is also protecting the genetics resource of certain animals. One of these animals is the purebred Arabian horses. Our horses are becoming champion of many races held in Turkey, and we are #1 organization in the world in terms of Arabian horse breeding based on International Federation of Arabian Horse Racing data. Under the scope of this important protection duty, we are also breeding Asian gazelles, shepherd dogs, and Angora goats to preserve them for the future generation. We are exporting certified cereal seed to 3 countries, and we started trials to begin export to 4 more countries. We are also exporting horse semen to Morocco. It goes by saying that I see a great opportunity here between our countries in terms of crops and livestock. We have the chance to increase our cooperation and trade. We are aware that Canada has a lot of offer us as we do, including not only the production, but also know-how, technologies, experience, and so on. We are always paying utmost attention to sustainability, and we are using the latest technologies in crop production, which are safe for the environment. Thanks to the efficient and powerful tractors, we are using less machine on larger fields, so we are saving from time, money, and fuel. We are carrying out a new project with the coordination of our presidency. We are collecting the forgotten local seeds from the villagers and plant them to transfer to the following generations. We are also production local vegetable seeds, so satisfy the demand of our farmers. Another biggest innovation is the electric tractor project, which has been launched for the first time in our country by the Ministry of Agriculture. These tractors will be able to be operated for 6 hours with 90 minutes of charging. This project is now under construction phase, and TİGEM will purchase 9 of these fully national tractors. As you know, the population is growing, but the lands are getting no larger. And this shows us that we have to use resource more and more carefully for feeding the world. So we believe that the electric tractor, which is the first in the world, will be a great innovation in terms of decreasing the cost of the farmers, especially fuel, by 80%. And we are really to share all know-how and experience on this innovation. And lastly, a project which is very important for us is the industrial cannabis production, because cannabis has a great value and many uses in different sectors. As you know, we have started propagating the local seeds at hand. We are aware that Canada is among the leader countries in medical cannabis production and cannabis harvesting machinery. So this can be a great opportunity for a cooperation between two countries. We can hold a technical know-how visit to Canada and transfer technology. Turkey has a large agricultural trade volume, and it is a bridge between Europe and Asia. So we have to consider the storage and logistic and increase our capability. We have the opportunity to take advantage of the trade volume in our region. Our country should produce and sell its products with high added value. With the digital agricultural market, we will make the best use of our country's opportunities and reach our goals. In this context, we will bring together producer cooperatives, unions, marketplace owners, consumption sectors, agricultural agents, banks. The digital agricultural market will be the common point of all stakeholders. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your attention. Hope my presentation has been beneficial for you. I would like to hear and comments and questions, and will be glad to answer from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your insights, Ms. Ayşe, Ayşin, Işıkgece. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Finally, I turn the floor over to General Manager of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, Ms. Kathleen Donohue, who had planned to visit Turkey before the pandemic. It will be a great pleasure to hear Canadian experience and success stories in the field of livestock and agri-food from her. And before Ms. Donohue, you start, I would like to make an announcement, if you please allow me. We have also visitors from France who are joining our webinar from the same industry. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Teşekkür ederim. Good to have visitors from France. Soyez la bienvenue. I just want to give a heartfelt thanks to our esteemed members from the Foreign Economic Relations Board of Turkey, the Turkish Canada Business Council, Ambassador Khokhar, and the various industry representatives that are gathered here today. I'm very much honored to be present among you. And I also think that that today's event is an important one because we have been facing a number of challenges, and it's important to look at opportunities to provide connections through virtual fora such as this. I had the good fortune, as the ambassador had mentioned, to visit Turkey previously. We have a joint agricultural memoranda, which has us gathering yearly with our Turkish counterparts in the Ministry of Agriculture, and through my past visit have had the opportunity to meet with both organizations. And as was noted, I was really looking forward in March to visit Turkey to further relations, but unfortunately those travel plans were canceled due to the pandemic that we all find ourselves grappling with. So it is unfortunate, but as I said, I think we need to look at forums such as this to continue to renew and further advance our relationships and look at how we can bring people together. I think it's fair to say that the last 6 months for all of us around the globe has been particularly challenging. I think many of us have faced hardships, either our countries or globally at the personal level, as we grapple with this pandemic. And I think the current situation has really, underscored the importance of, trade facilitating a complex, interconnected global agricultural and food system and supply chain. And I think through the last 6 months of this pandemic, it's, really highlighted and underscored the importance of partnerships and of working together. And, as the ambassador has noted, Canada and Turkey have a significant agricultural trading relationship, over $500 million annually, with that number continuing to rise year upon year. And I do think today I want to maybe highlight some of the positives of that relationship, as well as the potential, I think, that exists to be able to expand that bilateral agricultural trade and investment, and capitalizing, as was noted, on the hub that Turkey truly represents. And I think that the business acumen that exists across Turkey to help Canadian businesses diversify and work in partnership in these third countries. I know that our industry, continues to be committed to trade, to develop relationships, and to tap into new opportunities despite the challenges of the pandemic. And I think, it's thanks to organizations such as this and the participants who are on the line that are actively, engaged in looking at exploring agricultural partnerships. I think, one of the things that Canada appreciates from Turkey is, the high quality imports that we have received, that we continue to receive from Turkey. I think about the iconic Turkish hazelnuts, raisins, dried figs. But as I said, we have a business community, I think, that also recognizes, or is open to recognize, I think, that important role that Turkey plays regionally. And as I mentioned, the Turkish business community, commands, I think, a large set of networks, as the General Director has pointed out, across the Middle East, Africa, into parts of Europe. And I think this is an asset that Turkey has, where I think we as government, Canadian officials, really want to look at how do we bridge that and how do we help introduce those opportunities to Canadian business, and hopefully to smooth the pathway for that to be nurtured and advanced. We also, I think, as Canada, have a number of assets as well to contribute to Turkey, both in terms of sort of the natural agricultural wealth that exists in this country and our know-how. And I'm convinced that there is sort of a nexus there that has been tapped to some extent, but holds a lot of further promise. As the ambassador noted, we have a foundation to build on. We have the JETCO now, the Joint Economic Trade Arrangement. We have also a Joint Agricultural Committee, and have, I think, been working hard in the last couple of years to try to feed and nurture that relationship. So I think as we look to strengthen those ties, I think there's room to grow. In terms of the fundamentals, Canada's food and beverage processing industry, exports now to 192 countries. That sounds like a lot. Of course, there are, out of that 192, those that sort of are our mainstay export markets. And we know we need to do more to kind of nurture and diversify other business networks, other trading opportunities. And again, I do think this is where there is room to grow the partnership between Turkish and Canadian business. So, we can see that there are already, as the ambassador noted, some good examples of businesses taking advantage of that opportunity. And I'll go out on a limb and maybe mention one of those. And that is AGT Arbel. I have no shame. But that's partly because the leader of that company is one who has very much involved, not just in his own companies, but in the agricultural, sector writ large across Canada, and looking at advancing. And I do think, the opportunities that joint venture has created has not just been in the area of re-export across the region as a whole, but has also been one of opportunity to further process commodities that we are sending to Turkey, to add value and to rely on Turkish know-how to increase, the value of those sort of re-exported Turkish products, Turkish Canadian products, I suppose. As I mentioned, the opportunity to diversify, we're very much aware of the growing demand that Turkey has for animal genetics, for seeds, for pulses, as well as seafood from, common varieties such as shrimp and salmon and those sorts of things, to very much high-end luxury products such as king crab legs. And turning to genetics, that was, I think, talked about today so far. We understand that Turkey has a target to become self-sufficient in its meat production, and we've been working very hard to become that hopefully preferred source of agricultural input, practices, and technology that can help Turkey reach that goal. As the ambassador has noted, a number of our genetic products, of our breeding cattle, of our whole systems approach, in fact, to the livestock sector, has been exported around the globe in various key markets. And so I do think, though, in this regard, we do need your help as a business community to be able to put the excellence of those Canadian genetics, breeding capacity at the service of both Turkish, Turkey's animal sector and livestock sector, but also to tap into those third market opportunities. We continue to work with the Turkish Ministry of Agriculture to improve Turkish access to Canadian genetics in other products, to be able to meet that goal that Turkey has to become self-sufficient in meat production. But I can't underscore enough that your support, underscoring the interest that the business community has with your government is also key, I think, to kind of getting us to that last stage to improve access. And so I do really encourage your assistance in this manner. I do think it is very doable, and we are looking to take it forward. I also want to maybe, apart from the trade dimension, turn to research cooperation, which I think is also vitally important. While I was supposed to have gone to Turkey in March, we were also supposed to have held a research workshop on pulse research. This is something that we had started roughly about a year ago with the Turkish Agricultural Ministry. And unfortunately, that had to be postponed. But I'm happy to announce that we are moving forward. We're adapting, we're innovating, and we are going to move that workshop online over a 3-day format to be able to exchange views, information, research results, looking at pulse quality, pulse processing attributes, and so forth. So I think this is very positive that both sides, despite the situation with the global pandemic, are actively looking at ways to continue the dialogue, to look at how can we exchange information, and we're really looking forward to this workshop and seeing where it may take us in terms of potential joint research work, which can only, I think, serve to help advance the development of new products, new systems, and hopefully new business opportunities. I've very much enjoyed hearing from co-panelists in terms of opportunities that they see, and I think that we probably have some very much shared understanding of where we see those opportunities. I also think, though, apart from trade, apart from the innovation kind of research side of things, is an opportunity in terms of investment. Attracting investment into Canada, into Canadian agriculture, is a key priority for our government. That means, looking and working actively with the help of the ambassador and his team in the Trade Commissioner Service in Ankara and Istanbul for Turkish partners, Turkish investors. We too in Canada, I think, like to pride ourselves in also having sort of an advantage in terms of where we're located around the world. We have preferential market access through 14 trade agreements with 51 countries now, which is giving us access to 1.5 billion consumers. So I guess my pitch to you is, don't think about the size of our population, really think about the expansive networks that we have built over time. Think about, too, the highly educated workforce that we have, the fact that we have the lowest tax rate in terms of new business investment in the G7, and the fact that on the agricultural side, we do have world-leading agricultural research areas in a number of areas that have been highlighted this morning, in terms of genetics, in terms of seeds, and so forth. So I do think that lends itself, that's the baseline, the fundamentals for possible opportunities. And I think one that really comes to mind where I do think that there's tremendous opportunity when I think about Turkey is with something called the Protein Industries Canada. We call it PIC here, P-I-C, PIC. You know, PIC is an investment that was made by our government, you know, looking at the wealth of agricultural produce here, and the fact that in the last 15 or so years, we have really advanced the bar in terms of our production of pulses, and looking at the opportunity globally and the demand for plant proteins. So 2 years ago, the Government of Canada invested $950 million in what we call an innovation supercluster. This is really trying to harness all the talents across the country in terms of that natural, I think, competitive advantage in terms of growing grains and oil seeds in the large geographic sort of swath that we find ourselves in this country, but also the talent amongst our research centers of our educated workforce. So the concept of PIC, the Protein Innovation Industries Cluster, is really to really focus in on that power to foster plant-based protein production and innovation, as well as commercialized product. So this partnership, PIC, is between industry and academia, some of our world-leading universities here in the country. We're investing in seed genetics, in novel process technologies, as well as product development. We're also looking into agriculture-related artificial intelligence and machine learning as it relates to plant protein production. PIC provides venture capital financing to help grow small, medium-sized enterprises and to support plant protein companies to access new and expanding markets. So I think for, you know, foreign investors, such as Turkish companies, there is an opportunity here to take advantage of the growing ecosystem that exists here in Canada, to collaborate perhaps in building new business with this supercluster, PIC. And, you know, I would encourage you, if there is an interest, you know, to maybe signal that to my colleagues here at the embassy or myself. And, you know, maybe we can look at opportunities such as this to bring people together, to share knowledge, to at least learn a bit more about this opportunity. And then lastly, I think the last little point I'll touch on, I don't want to use up all the time here, is just I do think that there is an opportunity untapped around advanced technologies. You know, increasingly for agriculture into the next century to tackle the challenges of global warming, increasing costs, need to be more efficient, growing world population, the use of advanced technologies is going to be critical. The country here in Canada is home to a number of leading edge companies and research organizations using precision agricultural technology, farm management software, drone monitoring of crops, and so forth, bioengineering, food processing. So I do think that is probably another area maybe for a future type of form such as this to bring people together, both from the commercial side of things, business and research, to explore that a bit deeper and hopefully make some connections. So maybe in closing, I think that, you know, on that front, you know, I'm also very well aware that the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry has identified this year as the year of digitization in agriculture. And so I do think, you know, thinking about advanced technologies, that to me is certainly an area of opportunity. So to close, I think, welcome any questions. I do think, the ingredients are there to advance the partnership. I think both consumers in Turkey and Canada, appreciate the products from both their countries. I think what we've heard today too is that this natural sort of, idea of maybe capitalizing on Turkey as that natural hub in the region with those business networks, the business acumen, to maybe take it forward into other third markets, and to also, I think, explore advances in innovation and adapting and implementing new technologies to make our agriculture more efficient, to meet the pressing demands of the future, of now, frankly, whether it's, managing the pandemic or dealing with the global climate situation that we face ourselves in. So on that note, maybe we'll open up to questions. And as mentioned before, we work very closely, the Department of Agriculture, Agri-Food Canada, with the Canadian Embassy in Turkey, and are proud to do so, and look forward to feedback from this forum and also future opportunities to work with you to take this forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Donohue, for underlying these important points for us. Thank you so much. And there is already a question for you. We have guests participated from the Ministry of Agriculture. Dr. Senem Hacı Ömeroğlu, a veterinary medicine, is working at the Ministry of Agriculture, and she is responsible for semen and embryo export, import, and production in Turkey, local production. He says semen and embryos are the big markets in the world, but we can only import these products from Canada. If it is possible, the Ministry of Agriculture are willing to work with Canadian companies or Canadian state companies implementing breeding program in Turkey, including technology and technical developments like genomics. This is a question and a demand to you, Ms. Donohue.
Yes.
On behalf of the Turkish agriculture.
Yeah, so as noted very correctly, access for genetics in terms of embryo and semen in cattle, for example, is certainly available. And I think taking it forward, though, is the ability, hopefully, in the near future, to be able to export live bulls, goats, sheep, this sort of thing, to really kind of take this opportunity forward and hopefully support the goal that Turkey has to be self-sufficient in livestock production and in meeting its meat demands. And I think in this regard, we've been working very closely with the ministry, and I'm hoping that we're going to be almost there. We're certainly, the officials in my organization, very much open if Turkey has any further questions to our application to hold, a joint session over a webinar such as this to be able to take it forward. But I do think the ability to be able to send actual live animals to be able to further increase the breeding capacity would be very helpful. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you. Another question, maybe to you, Mr. Ambassador. What are their programs for dual citizenship, Canadian citizens, to fast-track and expand in Turkey through incorporation documents to matchmaking and strategic partnership?
So Nurdan, I lost you a little bit there. What I got was a question about dual citizenship. Is that it? So it's a migration and an immigration related question.
Well, this is not related to our subject of today.
Right. So maybe the best thing to do is to, I think you have an email address, and the question can be, if you have it sent to Chris Vimmer, and then we'll handle that offline. But it's not really pertinent to this, and I don't want to take up the time of this very important conversation.
Yes, yeah.
But happy to have it addressed for sure.
Maybe Ayşin Hanım, you have some words to add regarding a possible cooperation with Canada?
Yes, of course. You know, the quantity of the animals, always they are checking, I mean, who is related with livestock, General Director of Livestock is checking the quantity of the animals, the needs of the countries, and they are deciding on. You know, it's changing, but this is an issue to be addressed by the General Director of Foreign Relations and General Director of Livestock. That's why now nowadays they are deciding something on it, but I am not too much clear about the result.
Thank you so much. Thank you. There are some remarks from
Can I make two comments, really quick ones?
Please, Mr.
While you're waiting for I'm sure a number of questions to come in. So let me just pick up on the point that Ayşin brought up, which I think is an interesting one, and that is, and we should pursue it, is the question of cannabis. And I think it's an opportunity that absolutely we should look at directly. And so Kathleen, maybe what we can do is we can have an offline conversation, but also draw in Ayşin, because particularly on medical cannabis, because Canada has a good reputation. We've been kind of ahead of the global curve on this. And just immediately before coming to Turkey, I was in California for 5 years, and I can assure you there was a lot of interest there on medical cannabis as well, and non-medical cannabis. But I think in this particular case, there's an opportunity there, Kathleen. So
yes.
Let's make that connection and go forward, because it's something that we don't really think about naturally as an agricultural export per se, a traditional one. But given where we are legislation-wise and the technologies that we have, the second thing I'd like to draw attention to is exactly what you referred to, and that was on the innovation agenda. Mm-hmm. And I'm a great fan of innovation, and again, I took several years off of government to go to work on innovation and entrepreneurship. And too often we think about innovation in a traditional sense about apps and technology and ICT. And oftentimes we forget about innovation in the natural resource sector, innovations in mining, innovations in forestry, innovations, of course, in agriculture and agri-food. And not only the processing side and on the production side, but AI, you know, and the use of that in farming and farming technologies. This is all about innovation. And Canada is one of those leading countries where I was asked to bring both investment as well as firms and farmers looking at the next generation of what their family farms would be all about to Canada to talk a little bit about AI and innovative farming technologies. So there's farming, and then there's also just in terms of production, both crop as well as animal. So I'm very, very pleased that you brought that out, Kathleen, and that's something that oftentimes when you're dealing in things like genetics and livestock and exports, we don't naturally jump to, but I think with such advanced state of production in Turkey as a global supplier of agriculture, this is where there could be some real win-wins. So I'm glad that you raised that, and I really do hope that maybe we do have a second webinar that focuses very specifically on innovations in agriculture.
Yes, you are right, Mr. Jamal. During my presentation, I already show you some alternatives related with cannabis We are working already related with industrial cannabis, you know, and we are curious about the medical part. You are really good on that topic. And especially I would like to, I already showed you the electric tractor. It's new on the world. And we can share some technical information in order to have saving in your production, in your country. I don't know, maybe you are doing something, but we are ready to share know-how, what we are doing, what is the benefits of these machines, and some the other things like local seeds, which we are making, which we are producing on the vegetable side, especially how we can share that experience. I think it is really important. They are all topics, they are technical topics. That's why we can organize another meeting with the technical groups in order to discuss on it deeply, how we can share information and trade in between two countries. Intentions are really clear. We are full open to do something, no comment on it. And which way we will go, we should discuss deeply.
Thank you.
Yes. And maybe just to say, I'm very happy, Ambassador, that you picked up on that opportunity on the cannabis. I was actually quite struck by that, and do think that there's probably room for an initial kind of gathering, dialogue, bringing people together, as well as in ag tech, noted the electrification of tractors and that Ayşe mentioned. And I do think, you know, when you look at the traditional farmer today, you know, and I think many people outside of Canada think that, yes, we have big farms, but that they're all, you know, sort of big company owned. But in fact, they're not. There are, you know, these are family farms, growing livestock, you know, cropping multiple commodities, and they are using technologies such as precision farming and so forth, such as, you know, 24-hour monitoring of their livestock to be able to give them, in fact, on their phone, real-time updates of the health status of their cattle, in terms of weight, in terms of overall condition, etc., and in terms of informing them as to, you know, best feed mixes and etc. So I do think that this is an area of probably untapped potential to for a future forum such as this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to introduce you Ms. Nilgün Aladağlı. She is the Vice Chairperson of Turkey-Canada Business Council, and she has been doing business with Canada. She is importing ammunition. Now, how is yours, Nilgün?
Thank you. Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, maybe I should speak French.
Certainement.
For Kathleen. Bonjour, bonjour. Alors, j'ai une question. I have just one question for Kathleen. Est-ce qu'il y a des sociétés canadiennes qui voudront investir en Turquie, vraiment, sur ce secteur? Kathleen, est-ce qu'il y en a?
Kathleen.
We cannot hear you.
Je crois que oui. J'ai donné comme exemple RGT, Arbel. So I think there are. I gave one example. Obviously, I think it's probably the most prominent example. But I think, you know, part of the challenge, and I think this is where organizations such as yourself serve a valuable purpose, is to bring people together. And I realize that's difficult when we're talking about, when we're dealing in a pandemic. But I do think, you know, as perhaps the ambassador noted, you know, the goal of government really is to make sure that, you know, you have all the elements, kind of like a recipe in place, right? You have the access to agricultural products that we work, you know, between governments to ensure the smooth passage of those products, you know, respecting the plant, animal, and food safety guidelines of each other's countries. But it's organizations such as yours that are instrumental to actually bringing business people together for them to have frank discussions to look at what is the opportunity, what are some of the challenges, could be around investment rules, what is that value proposition? You know, people such as the ambassador, people in our trade commissioner service, in our ministry can certainly help maybe identify some of those key companies, organizations. But I think it's really, you know, on the other side, identifying the Turkish side and bringing those people together, such as through forums like this, so that they can have those important discussions and decide, in fact, is there a value proposition for taking it forward?
Okay.
So
Good.
Thank
you very much.
May I intervene on that point as well?
Sure.
Good. So first of all, thank you for the question, a very important one. And I think it often gets asked, like, is there financing? Is there investment possibilities? Well, what I've found around the world is that it's never a question of the lack of money. And it's rarely a question of a lack of investment. It's always a question about risk and risk management and the quality of the project and the quality of the investment. So if you have a great project, a great investment opportunity, we will find there will be an investor that's interested in that, either an institutional investor or an individual investor. So I think the question has to be turned back to say, what is the nature of the investment we're talking about? What's the tenor? What's the risk? Who are the participants? What's the rate of return look like? And capital has to compete, right? So the investment dollar is a limited one, and it's going to go around to where there's the most return for the investment and an easy market to relatively easy market to get into. Very rarely do investors say, I want to go into the most difficult market in the world possible to try to make the least amount of profit I can. So they're going to be looking for those sort of answers. I think so we should think about a little bit, and we do have EDC, the Export Development Canada here as well, and we should think about what are kind of the instruments available for investment in the sector. What's considered high risk, what's considered not, where there's coverage and where there's not, both from an institutional perspective as private investment. The second point that Kathleen has alluded to and I alluded to earlier, and that is when we think about the JETCO, the Joint Economic and Trade Commission meeting coming up, one of the major asks, or if you will, the major demands or interests of Turkey is for some form of trade agreement, a free trade agreement between Canada and Turkey, which is often preceded by a foreign investment protection agreement. So both of those are somewhat linked. But in both of those, the key is demonstrating access to the market. So if there's an environment where certifications or regulations, phytosanitary issues are well managed and easy to address, it's much more of a convincing case to be made for Canadian companies and Canadian investors. And that's where it's not just the job of government. It's the job of the government with the Turkish private sector to work with the Turkish government to say, listen, there's a tremendous amount of interest from foreign firms to get involved in the Turkish market in these sectors, but what's limiting it is kind of, and it works in all the countries. We all have red tape, we all have bureaucracy, and we all have to work through that. So we need to identify what are those tariff barriers, what are those non-tariff barriers, the regulatory issues, the hurdles that the everyday business person has to go through to try to get a sale in any market, but let's say in Turkey where we are now. And what is it that we can be doing? So one of the things I think the DEİK or the TCBC can be doing is working amongst its constituency together with Canadian exporters to saying, what are those key issues that we need to be addressing in a consolidated way to help open the market. And I speak to the very good question that was brought forward by somebody, a representative of the Ministry of Agriculture, was saying, you know, why can't we do more, perhaps, genetics in the country as opposed to just exporting genetics? Well, Kathleen's answer was, correctly, yes, and we should export more live animals in order to allow for that to happen. But both of those rely on having some access through certifications and SPS and the phytosanitary regulations being conducive to those sort of experts. So the interest on the investment side, I think, will be there when you start to address the very practical nuts and bolts issues about making sales and promoting trade and investment between our countries.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I would like to tell you one thing. I am in defense industry, of course, for now more than 25 years. And for me, it was very, very interesting to share this webinar. I learned a lot. That's why I would like to say thank you, thank you, thank you. It was fantastic. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, thank Nurdan for that. We're just participants in what I think is a great idea and a great initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also there is a remark from Mr. Okyay, Osman Okyay, our former chairperson for Turkey-Canada Business Council. Now he is the UK and Turkey Business Council chairperson. He says, dear panelists, this was a very insightful panel, even for a person who is not from the industry. One comment I would like to make, if I may, I would strongly recommend Directorate General of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada to encourage Canadian companies and institutions to consider selecting Turkey for some of their future R&D programs, as Turkey offers great incentive for R&D programs conducted in Turkey, such as grants up to 100%. And finding qualified researchers would not be a problem at all either.
Yes, I think it's a very good, I don't know if it's a question so much as a comment, and I would agree. And I think the challenge is really, you know, we do a significant trade globally in a number of key commodities around the world. We do have excellent research capacity at the academic level and also with companies. And I think part of the, challenge is, you know, looking at more global opportunities beyond just a handful of markets and maybe kind of, taking that risk and taking that step to diversify. I would say too that, you know, as noted, we have been working with the Ministry of Agriculture in a discussion on where we could perhaps look at trying to deepen research and development, and as noted, kind of the area that we kind of zeroed in on as a first step was to look at pulses. I admit it's very nascent, it's a very early discussion. The workshop that we will have next month is really just that exploratory phase of kind of looking at what each other brings to the table in terms of pulse quality, pulse fractionation, processing, so forth. And then from that, you know, we will look to see if there is an appetite for some co-development, co-research. But I think that in itself, just having that step of the workshop and trying to increase the knowledge base, to me, is a positive outcome, frankly. And hopefully one that, you know, may bear fruit in the area of pulses. If not, we will look at other areas. But I think that, you know, kind of taking that, you know, first step to have these conversations is a critical one. I noticed, Nurdan, that there are still other questions coming in. It's a little bit 15 minutes after the hour. If I may, I see a question with regards to importation from Turkey to Canada on imports of organic fertilizers. So I don't know if there's a way, pardon me, for the Turkish Canada Business Council perhaps to maybe record some of these questions. You know, happy to look into this. As the ambassador noted, you know, one of the elements I think that, you know, government does bring to the table, particularly in agriculture, is to look at areas of access, whether that's, you know, exporting or importing. And I'm very fortunate to be heading up this, what we call market access secretariat. We work very closely with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. And, you know, our goal is to look at, you know, how can we hopefully reduce the number of, you know, barriers to be able to trade, but also, you know, to be able to prioritize, you know, once we've heard from the business community, Turkish community, Canadian community, where to focus, because, you know, the demands are endless. Some of the issues, I grant you, can be very technical. There's no doubt, but I think it doesn't mean that sometimes they're not insurmountable. And I think we've had some very good success, you know, resolving matters and hopefully smoothing out issues. And we look to do that with our Turkish counterparts at the Ministry of Agriculture, as I mentioned, in the livestock area. But you know, if you have other questions of this sort of technical nature, maybe please send them forward. I'm happy to look into them. I'm not saying that we can resolve them, but I'm certainly, you know, pleased to look into them and explore it further.
Thank you. Thank you. And another question from Atasancak Dairy, which is the biggest dairy farm on the between the west and south part of Turkey, which used to belong to TİGEM. Ayşe Hanım can confirm it. They have a joint venture with the private sector to operate this farm. The general manager of Atasancak Dairy, Dr. İsmail İlker Kocaer, who hosted 2 years ago a big group of Canadian presentators and also Turkish people from the dairy industry for a seminar, big seminar on the farm. The milking cows are around 10,000 on this dairy. He says Canada is quite far from Turkey logistically. In order to control this region, is there an intention to co-invention in Turkey or Canada? Do you have an intention for a direct investment in Turkey? In fact, Ambassador Khokhar has answered this, but this is a comment to you again. You have to keep in your mind, please, at the end of this webinar. So everybody is very much looking forward to have a joint venture, to have a collaboration with the Canadian companies.
Great, that's terrific news.
Yes. And also very hot topic today, we heard that the strike in Canada, in Montreal Harbor. Do you have any news about this?
I'm sorry, I don't, and I should. That's my mistake. I don't have any further update on that one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Well, yeah, well, we can look into that, but my understanding is there is a pause in the strike over the next couple of months while both sides look to resolve things on a more longer term basis, which is good news for all.
Do we have time again, or Ecem? Maybe we can continue with the questions.
So I think while you're waiting for questions, I know that Chris Wimmer is listening in, who is our Senior Trade Commissioner in Istanbul. And I think his information will go around to people for email addresses, where to contact people. But I think one of the important things to do is, in preparation for the JETCO meeting in early November, we should start to cluster together some of these very important questions and these points that are being raised related to investment, related to market access specifically, the technical barriers to trade. What are the things that the Turkish private sector could look towards, both, and the Canadian private sector look to both our governments to do, to try to reduce some of those barriers, to address some of those issues, and to stimulate trade investment on both sides. And the JETCO is a unique opportunity to do that at a very high level. So this is something for your constituency to do, and we'll make Chris do some work and start putting together an agenda for that meeting in early November.
Okay, thank you so much. Good point, Mr. Ambassador. I think we should finalize this webinar. In the meantime, Arish Bashir from Department of Agriculture of Alberta, he had some questions. I know him very well. I will answer him directly. As a final, on behalf of Foreign Economic Relations Board of Turkey, allow me to thank you, our keynote speakers, partners, for their valuable contributions to make this webinar happen. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you very much, Ayşe Hanım. Thank you very much, Ms. Donohue. And special thanks to Mr. Mike Ward, Executive Director of CTBC, Canada-Turkey Business Council, for his very valuable contributions and continued support. I also would like to thank all the participants. I strongly believe that our strategic partnership with Canada will continue in full speed, and we will together navigate in the new normal as we have always done. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.